Hello, I am a woman in my 30s currently employed as a teacher at an elementary school. Although I came close to getting married last year, the engagement was ultimately called off, to be more precise, by my mother-in-law. The aftermath of the breakup was incredibly difficult for me, but recently, something happened that completely erased the injustice I had faced. Let me share the story behind the reason for the termination of my engagement. It all stemmed from my parents' occupation. You see, my parents work in two small spots in the local open-air markets, where they sell hot dogs and snacks. They have been dedicated to their work, selling food items, even to this day. In fact, my parents' love story began at the market. It felt as if fate had brought them together. My mom was known as the dessert girl, and my dad was called the hot dog boy. They formed a connection and eventually became a couple. After dating for a while, they tied the knot and had me. Throughout the years, they have continued working at their small stores, preparing food with love and care to serve their customers. When I was very young and unaware of societal judgments, I used to feel immense joy when mom and dad would bring me food from their workplace every day. Those memories still hold a special place in my heart. However, as I began attending school, I started experiencing a sense of embarrassment regarding my parents' occupation. As time went on, my perspective shifted. Initially, I harbored a deep fear that my friends might stumble upon my parents while they were working in the bustling marketplace. This led me to intentionally avoid the area altogether. Whenever the school conducted its annual demographic survey, I would fabricate details about my parents' occupations. I designated my mother as a housewife and my father as an office worker, all in an attempt to shield the truth. I would anxiously wonder if one of my schoolmates would uncover the fact that my parents were actually food vendors in the market. To my own dismay, I found myself frequently criticizing my parents' chosen profession. I would question them. Why do you pay so much attention to the quality of the food you sell when Watcher's Stall offers cheap fare without any fuss? People won't notice the difference anyway. My mother promptly responded, "What do you mean they won't know? People can taste the difference. Palates are finely tuned, and any food consumed should be crafted with care. It may be inexpensive, but it is still food. Those who have limited means deserve the same level of consideration. That's why your father deliberately selects only the finest ingredients. Your mother and I sell affordable food, but we choose to make it with extra care." I struggled to comprehend the immense effort my parents put forth day in and day out, from the early hours of dawn until late at night. They labored diligently, meticulously selecting ingredients with great scrutiny, all to create meals that cost mere dollars. Yet their dedication often went unnoticed by others. As I grew older, however, my perspective gradually transformed. Observing my parents maintain unwavering standards and unwavering care in their craft taught me a valuable lesson. It showed me that one's way of living should be characterized by honesty and sincerity, just like my parents. Over time, their unwavering commitment to excellence instilled in me the belief that people should approach life with integrity and dedication, regardless of their occupation or the recognition they receive. I developed a newfound respect for my parents' occupation. Their job held immense importance for them, and the mere thought of anyone demeaning them based on their own narrow standards filled me with anger. Whenever such derogatory remarks crossed my mind, especially after my broken engagement, I would fervently pray for some divine retribution against those who had wronged me. I didn't care who received the punishment, I just wanted justice. Did God hear about the injustice done to me 2 months ago? Well, an unexpected opportunity presented itself, and I couldn't help but feel overjoyed upon hearing the news. Beneath me in the family hierarchy, there is my sister, 9 years my junior. She was born during my parents' later years, but I never felt envious of her. She was undeniably adorable and lovable, perhaps owing to the significant age gap between us. However, she constantly complained about her appearance. "Hey sis, why are my eyes so small when yours are so big?" she would often lament. Maybe it was because mom and dad had me late, and thus, they didn't pass on any desirable genes. But I always reassured her, saying, "No, Jenny, you're much prettier than you think." I repeated those words countless times, but she remained fixated on her looks and never truly believed me. As soon as her SAT exam concluded, she independently visited a plastic surgery clinic. She called me, her voice full of urgency, asking me to come to future plastic surgery clinic on her behalf. Startled by her sudden request, I rushed to the clinic, only to discover her face covered in markings made by a felt-tip pen. Perplexed, I inquired about what had happened. My sister explained that she had just received a consultation, and coincidentally, they were offering her a student discount. She then requested that I cover the fees for her, assuring me that the clinic accepted credit cards and would even provide discounted interest rates. I was utterly shocked when my sister, fully expecting me to pay for her plastic surgery, stood there waiting. In my bewilderment, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a damp tissue to wipe her face. Surprisingly, she grabbed my hand, stopping me in my tracks. "Don't they have to do the surgery like this? Your face needs no surgery," I exclaimed, trying to convince her. "Didn't I tell you that you're already pretty enough? Let's go home and forget about this." But my sister insisted, "No, I want to get the surgery today." Despite approaching her 19th birthday, she acted more like a 9-year-old throwing a tantrum. Just then, the doctor who had been in the examination room emerged, undoubtedly disturbed by the commotion. My sister wasted no time and eagerly asked him, "Doctor, can I have the surgery today?" As I glared at the doctor, my anger intensified. If he hadn't drawn on my sister's face and planted the idea of plastic surgery in her head, we wouldn't have reached this unfortunate point. The male doctor glanced back and forth between my sister and me, seemingly grasping the situation. He responded to my sister, "We can't perform the surgery today. I need to finish my work now. Besides, the registration for evening surgeries is already closed." My sister became deeply upset, but at least the immediate situation had been resolved. "Hey, no matter how much you want to enhance your appearance, how dare you jump straight into plastic surgery without considering the financial aspect? Aren't you afraid that something might go wrong?" I scolded her, my frustration evident. I scolded my sister the entire way home, but she remained silent, her head turned towards the car window. My parents, who had just returned from work, grew concerned about her sullen behavior. I suspected she was upset about not performing well on her SAT exams that night. I pondered over my sister's situation, realizing she probably wouldn't listen to me even if I forbade her from going. Unfortunately, my worries soon became reality. After my classes, as I was preparing to head home, I received a text message from an unknown number on my mobile phone. To my surprise, it was from the same male doctor I had met before. We had discussed my sister's matters over the phone previously. The message requested that I pay the surgery bills and arrange for installments. I called the number, confirming it was indeed the doctor. During our conversation, I made a serious request. I asked if he could kindly tell my sister that she didn't need any surgery and that taking good care of herself would make her even more beautiful than she already was. However, his response caught me off guard. He questioned why a plastic surgeon would tell her she could become prettier without any surgery. He explained that it was akin to telling someone they didn't need to study to achieve good grades, just like Jenny. As I listened to his reasoning, I felt a wave of embarrassment wash over me. I had foolishly asked a plastic surgeon such an absurd favor. Following the incident, we had several more phone conversations. My colleagues at work, who are also my close friends, began teasing me about my encounters with the doctor. They jokingly wished me luck, hinting at a romantic relationship. As the school was a small place, rumors quickly spread that I was dating a plastic surgeon, no matter how far-fetched that notion was. I denied it initially, But the people around me, including the students I taught, didn't believe me. They would ask, "Teacher, are you dating someone?" These inquiries fueled the rumors, which spiraled out of control. As the situation worsened, I eventually gave up, hoping that the rumors would naturally die down. To my surprise, as the rumors gradually faded away, the doctor who had been a subject of gossip actually approached me, expressing his interest in dating me formally. At first, I was perplexed, but it soon became apparent that he was a kind and caring person. As a teacher, I had gone on blind dates set up by my friends, but none of them compared to him. Thus, defying the rumors, we became a couple and started dating without encountering any significant issues. We respected each other and enjoyed spending time together for a year. I realized that dating can have a transformative effect on individuals, and my observant younger sister was quick to notice the changes in me. Eventually, my entire family became aware of my relationship. Among them, my sister welcomed it the most because the doctor I was dating happened to be associated with the clinic she had visited. In her excitement, she exclaimed, "If you marry that doctor, does that mean I could get free plastic surgery?" I had to clarify the misconception, stating firmly, "What do you mean by free? David is only a contracted doctor. Don't even dream about getting free services." It turned out that my sister had mistakenly believed he was the director of the clinic. Nevertheless, I defended my boyfriend against my sister's immaturity, emphasizing that his competence in his field was what mattered. My parents, on the other hand, were delighted that I was dating a doctor, as they felt it was about time I found someone who was successful and respected in his profession. I believe it's important to focus on the person I choose to marry rather than their profession. What matters most is their character and the effort they've put into their career. Just like our daughter, who worked hard to become a teacher, anyone who dedicates themselves to their profession deserves recognition. These days, being a teacher is highly valued, and rightly so. Teachers play a crucial role in shaping the future generations. I take pride in our daughter's accomplishments and the hard work both my boyfriend and I have put into our respective careers. From my perspective, our professional combination seemed sufficient. It appeared that my boyfriend shared the same sentiment. His family also seemed to view my profession favorably when he informed them that I was an elementary school teacher. However, little did I know at that time that their response, "Not bad," didn't necessarily mean it was good. It simply meant that they didn't consider my occupation to be negative. After dating for 2 years, we reached the stage where marriage became a topic of discussion. Our parents grew impatient and urged us to have a dinner together at my home. My boyfriend agreed, and when he visited our house for the first time, he carefully observed his surroundings. It made me feel as though we were being evaluated, which made me nervous. In reality, our house was an old single-story residence. When we first moved in, it was already over 20 years old, and by the time of the meeting, it had surpassed 40 years. The interior of the house didn't look significantly different. At first glance, it was clear that it had aged and showed signs of wear and tear. I hadn't noticed it before, but when I introduced my boyfriend to my home, every minor detail seemed bothersome. Surprisingly, he didn't utter a word of complaint about the house. Instead, he wore a smile and praised my mother's delicious food. I had worried that my boyfriend might be disappointed upon seeing our modest dwelling, but his reaction put my concerns at ease. From that day on, my family assumed that our marriage was all but settled. Not long after, it was my turn to visit my boyfriend's house and meet his mother. I paid extra attention to my attire and makeup, even bringing a bouquet for his widowed mother. As we stood in front of his house, my boyfriend brought up an unexpected topic. "Honey, I need to apologize. I lied to my mom about your parents' occupation," he confessed. I told her they operated a franchise cafe. I was taken aback and felt a mixture of surprise and disappointment. I had no right to judge, considering I knew his family wasn't in the best financial situation. Nevertheless, I couldn't help feeling hurt by the emphasis on materialistic conditions. I was about to express my intent to leave when a voice interrupted me. "Oh my, Dr. Anderson, my son, are you already here? Welcome," his mother exclaimed, unaware of our conversation. "I'm David's mother. It's a pleasure to meet you," his mother greeted me while carrying a cake she had bought. As she approached us, I couldn't help but feel bewildered. However, his mother seemed oblivious to my surprise and kindly invited me to come inside. Reluctantly, I had no choice but to enter his house. The condominium he lived in was a bit larger than 700 square feet, but appeared much more worn out compared to our own home. This was the first time his mother and I had met, and she proudly shared with me the hardship she endured to put my boyfriend through medical school. She mentioned that she went through a divorce when her son was in high school. While she spoke with pride, it didn't bother me much, except for the fact that my boyfriend had lied about my parents. Throughout the encounter, I couldn't shake off a feeling of discomfort. It reminded me of my own younger days when I didn't want my friends to discover my parents' occupation. Unfortunately, my worries became a reality. "So, did you say your name was Janet? Where do you live?" his mother inquired, shifting the conversation to my personal life. She explained that my son needed to start preparing to open his own hospital, and she had been busy visiting real estate offices to find the best area. When I shared where I lived, she responded, "Oh, that area poses some challenges due to its proximity to an open market. Even with talk of redevelopment, the quality of patients may not meet our expectations." I couldn't help but feel a pang of discomfort. "Well, at least your parents are in business, so money shouldn't be an issue, right? What's the name of their franchise?" his mother probed, causing a metaphorical fishbone to lodge in my throat. Feeling that she would eventually uncover the truth, I decided to speak honestly about my parents' business without worrying about being exposed later. "Actually, my parents sell hot snacks in open markets," I confessed. To my surprise, his mother reacted dramatically, as if my words had shocked her. I felt deeply embarrassed witnessing her exaggerated response, and my boyfriend appeared flustered. "Mom, let's not make a big deal out of it," he intervened, attempting to diffuse the tension. "I'll explain later. I can't believe you're talking about what I think you're talking about. It's that unsanitary small stand selling inexpensive food like hot dogs and such." His mother narrowed her eyes, resembling a venomous snake, and snarled at me as if to confirm. When she blurted out offensive words such as unsanitary and cheap food, I chose not to respond any further. She appeared frustrated by my silence and headed to the refrigerator to grab a cold glass of water, which she promptly gulped down while standing. Then, with a terrible look in her eyes, she suddenly sprayed the cold water in my face. It was the first time I had ever been treated so shamefully, and I simply stared at his mother. She huffed like an angry bull and launched an attack on me, filled with anger. "I'm sorry, but this marriage is off. I have no intention of becoming in-laws with your parents, who sell those cheap and unsanitary foods. When I heard that you were an elementary school teacher, I thought it wasn't a bad thing, but how dare you, from such a low-class family, even consider marrying my son? It's not a laughing matter. Why do you feel upset about being from such a low social class? How dare you not respond to me? Obviously, how could you have been raised any better in such a trashy environment? You're so low class." I found it concerning that my laughter escaped me as I observed her dilapidated house, far inferior to ours. In that moment, my bewildered boyfriend swiftly handed me a towel to wipe my face. However, his mother became infuriated by his gesture. She slapped her grown-up son on the back and shouted, "How much did I struggle to raise you? How dare you bring someone like her, from such an unbelievable background?" Unable to endure the atmosphere any longer, I abruptly pulled my hands away from my boyfriend and fled the house. Hailing a taxi, I rode in silence, my heart heavy with the weight of the offensive remarks made by that unbelievably rude woman. It pained me to realize that my boyfriend had a mother like her. Yet I couldn't dismiss the hurtful words that had been uttered that day. Later in the evening, my boyfriend reached out to me, expressing his apologies through calls and texts. He promised to do everything in his power to persuade his mother and begged me to wait for him. However, I made it clear that I wanted to end the relationship. I questioned the greatness of his family, asking why his mother couldn't consider her own circumstances. Did my parents' social status, which embarrassed him, make me so shameful in his eyes? I didn't wish to be associated with someone who lied and acted no differently. I felt ashamed that I had ever loved a person like him. My boyfriend remained silent, listening to my words without offering a response. I thought our relationship was coming to an end. However, one day after returning home from work, I was surprised to find my mom already there, resting in bed. I noticed her arm was wrapped in a bandage, and concern filled me. "Mom, what happened to your arm?" I asked. She attempted to conceal it and replied, "It's nothing, just a minor injury." Perplexed by her nonchalant response, I blurted out, "What do you mean? It's nothing. Your anemia came back, and you accidentally burned your arm on a hot griddle. Do you realize how shocked and worried I was? It could have been much more serious." My father interjected with frustration, "Honey, why do you disclose every detail to Janet? She's overreacting. I'm fine, and besides, what's the harm if an older woman like me has a few scars? They're just reminders of experiences endured." Emotion welled up inside me as I watched my mother repeat her attempts to alleviate my concerns. Overwhelmed, she finally asked, "Why are you crying over something so small?" I assure you, I'm truly fine. Her words were meant to comfort me. That night, unable to shake off my worries, I delved into internet research, desperate to find any medical procedures that could potentially diminish my mother's burn scars. A few days later, an unexpected call from my ex-boyfriend's hospital interrupted my work. I rushed over immediately, leaving my tasks unfinished. Arriving at the hospital, I discovered my younger sister showing my ex-boyfriend my mother's scared arm. Annoyed, I asked, "Why didn't you inform me before bringing Mom here? You startled me. And why are you showing her scars to your boyfriend?" My sister, unaware of our breakup, was upset by my reaction. My mother seemed embarrassed about displaying her burn scars to my ex-boyfriend. Sensing the tension, my ex-boyfriend intervened, suggesting we step outside to talk privately. "Let's leave for now, and Mom, come with us," I urged, eager to remove us from the uncomfortable situation. But my ex-boyfriend halted my exit, insisting on examining my mother's scars thoroughly. "It's something I can do, at least. Please don't fuss," he said, as if compelled to help. I apologize for any discomfort I may have caused by coming here. My mom assured me that it's not awkward at all, and that burn scars can be easily treated these days without requiring surgery. It may take time, but with continued treatment, they will improve significantly. I'm fortunate to already be receiving help, especially since my son-in-law is a doctor. However, I felt uneasy when my mom made that comment, and it seemed like my suspicions were confirmed when I coincidentally saw his mother, who I'd rather not encounter, at his hospital. I was taken aback and questioned why his mother was there without informing me. She explained that she came to see her son, but I couldn't help but feel that I shouldn't have to endure such unpleasant encounters. His mother didn't hesitate to make rude remarks, referring to us as beggars. I couldn't tolerate her disrespectful comments and warned her to be careful with her words. It seemed apparent that she didn't appreciate what she was hearing, but if she had ended her relationship with her son, then it should be over. I didn't understand what more she expected to gain from him, and her lack of pride was evident. At this point, my mom interrupted, asking if we had broken up. I replied, expressing my disinterest in having any connection with her, and requested that she leave. My mom was shaken by his mother's rude behavior, causing her to tremble. Witnessing this, I became furious and shouted at an elder for the first time in my life. His mother seemed to believe that the hospital belonged to her son, and I had no desire to associate with someone so impolite and ignorant. I made it clear that we wouldn't stay, even if she begged us to. She taunted me by referring to my profession as a teacher, but I chose not to respond. Instead, I left the hospital with my mom and sister, leaving them in a state of shock. My father appeared frustrated and bewildered by the situation, unaware of what had transpired. I couldn't bring myself to explain what had happened at the hospital. I felt that it was all my fault. My mom was so deeply affected by the incident that she couldn't work for 3 consecutive days. Later, my mom received a phone call and prepared to go out. I questioned her decision, suggesting that she should rest more. She revealed that the real estate office had contacted her regarding someone renting a building space at the market entrance. She had arranged for the space to be rented out as quickly as possible, hoping to gather funds for my wedding. Fortunately, there was available space in my father's building, and she managed to secure it through polite negotiation. She expressed remorse for inconveniencing those people, but assured me that she planned to cease her business at the market. Instead, she intended to open a proper restaurant, ensuring that no one could look down on my sister and me. My mom blamed herself for the broken engagement, and witnessing her state of mind filled me with regret. I deeply regretted even considering marrying such a man. Because my mom was emotionally unstable, I insisted on accompanying her despite her insistence that she was okay. I had plenty of free time during my school vacation, and despite my insistence, my mother took me along when we visited the real estate office. To my surprise, I encountered my ex-boyfriend's mother there. The real estate agent informed us that she was looking for a rental space for her son's hospital. Oddly enough, she mentioned that the nearby neighborhood, with its open market, had a lower class of people who were not suitable as patients. I wondered why she was seeking a space there if she held such views. The real estate agent, who was unaware of the situation, introduced my mother as the owner of the building to my ex-boyfriend's mother. Upon hearing this, her eyes widened as if they were about to pop out, and she exclaimed, "Are you mistaken? How could that woman own such a building? She sells cheap food in the open market." She found it hard to believe and continued, "All the best buildings around here are owned by her and her husband. You must be mistaken, aren't you?" Feeling satisfied, I couldn't help but snicker at her as she approached my mom and me with a twisted expression. Isn't it unfortunate, I thought, that such a snobbish family now has to acknowledge that we own this building? Trying to maintain composure, my ex-boyfriend's mother said, "We'll consider renting elsewhere. You never would have allowed us anyway. Let's be honest. I'm sorry for not knowing that your parents owned so many buildings. If I had known earlier, would I have acted that way? Why did you keep it a secret and make everything so difficult?" My frustration grew as her fake smile emerged. Unable to contain myself any longer, I shouted, "What difference does it make? Whether we own buildings or not, it changes nothing. You have nothing yourselves, yet you're trying to use your son as leverage to improve your own life. Live your life with integrity." My mom pulled at my sleeve, signaling for me to stop as my voice grew louder. She said, "Janet, that's enough," and urged me to leave. My ex-boyfriend's mother became frantic and pleaded, "I'm truly sorry for my behavior earlier. Life was incredibly difficult as a single mother trying to raise a son on my own. I made a mistake, and I ask you to consider my son's well-being. Please, let's continue with the wedding." I took out a large loan and even used my house as collateral to finance this building. I even took a loan in my son's name. Despite its location in a green area, this building is much more affordable, and I have invested all my efforts into it. So I implore you to help me and my son. My mother was taken aback, and her hands started trembling once again. When my father heard the news, he approached and inquired about the situation. I told him the truth, and he grabbed a broom from the nearby staircase. He began sweeping the floor where my ex-boyfriend was standing, expressing his disapproval. My ex-boyfriend's mother was startled by my father's actions and hastily left, feeling embarrassed and outraged by the way she had been treated. Both my mother and I felt a weight lifted from our chests when the property values in our neighborhood began skyrocketing. Not only did the value of my mother's building increase, but my father's building also saw a significant rise in price. For the first time, they were able to make a substantial profit. Jokingly, I suggested that they should stop working and enjoy their lives at home. However, they believed that money should be earned through hard work. They planned to save that money for our two daughters' future weddings. My parents were content with their work in the market, finding joy in serving real people. They believed that if they were absent, those who relied on their food, like hot dogs and snacks, would be left disappointed. They not only sold food, but also created an atmosphere of fun. I admired my parents' dedication and saw them as a perfect couple. I hoped that one day I would meet a soulmate who shared the same appreciation for people, just like our parents did. Going through the obstacle of a broken engagement, I learned a valuable lesson. There should be no discrimination based on the type of job a person has. When my father mentioned that they sold good memories, I realized he was right. Thank you for listening to my story. I genuinely hope that whatever path you choose in life, you appreciate it and find happiness. Your support, through likes and subscriptions, means a lot to me. Have a wonderful day wherever you are.